Welcome to another deep dive into boxing history with 86 Boxing. Today we're exploring the life and career of Joe Butler, a pioneering boxer from the late 1800s whose contributions to the sport have been largely overlooked. Join us as we uncover the remarkable journey of the king of the middleweights. Joe Butler was born on May 18, 1886, in Paoli, Pennsylvania. Born a mere 5 months after slavery was abolished in the United States, Butler came from humble beginnings and found solace and purpose in the boxing ring, where he began to develop his skills and passions for the sport. His early life is largely unknown, but he ultimately fought out of and became synonymous with the fighting town of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Butler stood 6 feet and a half and operated primarily between the middleweight and light heavyweight limits, but he would fight as high as heavyweight. Like many fighters of his era, Butler faced numerous challenges outside of the ring. The late 1800s were a time of social and racial tensions, and Butler, as an African-American boxer, often had to contend with discrimination and limited opportunities. Despite these obstacles, Butler remained focused on his passion for boxing and continued to fight for recognition and success. Butler came to in the gay 90s. This is referring to the 1890s, a decade marked by cultural vibrancy and societal shifts. In America, it was a time of nostalgia, while in the UK, known as the naughty 90s, it symbolized a period of decadent art, notable scandals, and the rise of the suffrage movement. This era, rich in colorful characters and social changes, sets the stage for the story of a fighter who thrived amidst the unique challenges and opportunities of the time. Hey there, boxing enthusiasts. If you've enjoyed today's deep dive into boxing history, don't forget to subscribe to 86 Boxing for more fascinating stories and legendary matchups. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and give us a thumbs up if you learned something new. Your support means the world to us. It takes a lot of time and resources to research and bring these historic profiles to life. Leave a comment below with your thoughts, and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching, and keep punching above your weight class. Debuting around 1883, and depending on sources, Butler's early career was moderately impressive, as by 1890, he'd been in the ring with the Negro middleweight champion of the world, John Bates, also known as the Darky Wizard. The Negro Middleweight Championship was a relatively obscure title based off of a claim Bates established at some point in the late 1800s. This would eventually be supplanted by the Colored World Middleweight Championship. Butler also faced Black Pearl Harris Martin, a competitive middleweight with 87 career fights, against some of the top fighters in his weight class in and around the late 1800s, and the first claimant of the Colored World Middleweight Championship. Butler's career truly began to take shape in the 1890s, a period marked by significant changes in the boxing rules and regulations. His dedication and hard work quickly paid off as he gained a reputation for his tenacity and skill in the ring. Butler's fighting style was characterized by his fast hands and feet and powerful punches, which made him a formidable opponent. On September 21st, 1892, Butler would step in with the battle-hardened Australian heavyweight Joe Goddard, then Australian heavyweight champion. Goddard fought one of the toughest resumes in heavyweight history, which included knockout victories over fighters such as the California Terror, Joe Kowinski, the Irish Giant, Peter Marr, and the Mission Boy, Joe McAuliffe. Butler and Goddard fought a no contest that was ultimately stopped after the third round by police, with Butler, who overcame adversity in the contest himself, having dropped the larger Goddard multiple times in the process despite being outweighed by 30 pounds. Goddard, who was no slouch in the power department, caught Butler with a hard shot that left him on groggy legs just before the police intervened. In his next fight, with sources reporting it having taken place in either September or October of 1892, Joe Butler would knock out the first colored world heavyweight champion in boxing history, the Black Thunderbolt, Charles C.C. Smith, in 3 rounds. This was significant in that C.C. Smith was one of the more formidable heavyweights of the late 1870s and 1880s, and at one point a legitimate threat to John L. Sullivan, the first world heavyweight champion in boxing history, who denied C.T. Smith a match due to the color line. This led to what may be Butler's finest accomplishment on November 13, 1892, when he stepped in with then colored world middleweight champion Ed Benny in Philadelphia. Hailing from Washington, D.C., Benny, the second ever colored world middleweight champion, was knocked out by Butler in 2 rounds. With the win, Butler became the third colored world middleweight champion in boxing history. On March 18, 1893, Butler would defend his colored world middleweight title in a Philadelphia contest with the Harlem coffee cooler Frank Craig. Butler would knock out Craig in 2 rounds. Butler came into the contest 12-1, while Craig was 10-3-2. Butler continued to rack up wins, and on December 15th, he would face former colored world heavyweight champion George Old Chocolate Godfrey, one of the pioneering heavyweights of the early years of the Marquess of Queensberry rules adaptation, fighting to a 4-round draw. This fight was a significant milestone in Butler's career, showcasing his ability to stand toe-to-toe with some of the best fighters of his time. One could also argue this was the pinnacle for Butler as far as accomplishments. On February 20th, 1894, Butler would once again step in the ring with Frank Craig in a highly anticipated rematch with the colored world middleweight championship on the line. Butler was in impressive form, coming in at 19-1-1, but Craig had gotten better, and in what was a 4-rounder, Craig won a points victory over Butler, picking up the colored world middleweight championship in the process, becoming the 4th man to hold such title distinction. At the time, Butler's 2 title defenses were the most that had taken place to that point. From here, it was largely an up-and-down career for Butler. Now, it should be noted that most of the fights were 4 or 6-rounders, emphasizing maximizing every second. On July 24th, 1894, Butler dropped a 4-round decision to the Irish giant Peter Maher, a claimant of the world heavyweight title during the era and one of the great heavyweights to hail from Ireland. It was reported to have been a clear win for Maher. On May 1st, 1895, Butler dropped a 4-rounder to the underrated Bobby Dobbs, one of boxing's great lightweight/welterweights of the era and a fighter who finished his career with well over 200 fights. In July of 1896, Butler would be knocked out in 1 round against big-punching former Australian heavyweight champion Frank Paddy Slavin, who was 6'2" and between 190 and 215 pounds in his career and regarded as the heavyweight Jack Dempsey of his time. Butler was unconscious for several minutes before being revived. Heading into the fight, Butler was promised a $5,000 purse by the promoter and a shot at either Peter Maher or Joe Kowinski had he come out victorious. On March 6, 1897, Butler would be knocked out in the 6th round of a 15-round contest with then colored world heavyweight champion, king of the Battle Royal, Bob Armstrong, in Armstrong's first title defense. Armstrong, at 6'3", 200 pounds, outweighed Butler by 23 pounds and was a strong, lean heavyweight with power. Butler would right the ship and knock out Slavin in 1 round on May 31st, 1897. Slavin stormed out of the corner swinging hard rights and lefts, catching Butler with a chest shot that knocked him back. Butler started to tee off on his own and caught Slavin with a hard right to the jaw, which made Slavin fall forward and grab Butler by the waist, taking him to the canvas along with himself. Referee Billy Madden pulled the 2 men apart, and Slavin rolls on wobbly legs. Butler then charged Slavin and landed a big left that sent Slavin flat on his back with his head hitting the canvas. As game as they came, Slavin pulled himself up by the ropes, and his corner threw in the sponge to save their man from further damage as he was in no stage to continue. Butler himself was stopped by the underrated Jack Bonner on November 1st, 1897 in questionable fashion. 20 seconds into the contest, Butler caught Bonner with a hard shot to the point of the jaw that sent him to the canvas. Referee and manager of the Quaker City Athletic Club in Philadelphia, where the fight was being held, Ernest H. Crowhurst, interfered and allowed Bonner to recover. From there, Bonner held and clinched until the end of the round before stopping Butler himself in the second. On November 13th, Butler and Bonner would rematch again at the Quaker City Athletic Club, with Crowhurst again refereeing. Butler was the betting favorite heading into what was scheduled for 4 rounds. Based on reports, referee Crowhurst disqualified Butler in the second round after he struck Bonner while Bonner was on the floor and fell through the ropes. From there, Butler struck referee Crowhurst and was arrested by the police for attempting to assault him, though referee Crowhurst refused to press charges. Butler was then knocked out in 2 rounds in a rematch against Bob Armstrong on May 27, 1898. From there, Butler faced former Pacific Coast middleweight champion Harry Peppers. In about a minute and a half, Butler dropped the 6'1" Peppers twice, the latter being a right to the chest that left Peppers down for the count. Ironically, Peppers would go on to compete against George Bud Byers in an 1897 contest that saw Byers become the 5th colored world middleweight champion. On January 21st, 1899, Butler would face off against the first man to lose and regain the colored world heavyweight title, the crafty Texan Frank Childs. In what was reported to have been a hotly contested fight, Butler lost his head in the second round and started to repeatedly punch Childs in the clinch, to which there was an agreement that fighting in the clinch would not be allowed. The referee disqualified Butler for the infractions, awarding Childs the victory. Butler and Childs will meet again on December 15, 1900, in an anticipated rematch in Chicago, the adopted home of Childs. Childs dominated the first round and the first half of the second round before catching Butler with a glancing blow that sent him to the canvas. Butler refused to get up, though he didn't appear to be truly hurt, and referee Seiler counted him out. This sent the fans in attendance in an uproar and near riot, so referee Seiler restarted the fight. By this time, Childs had already removed his gloves. Given such, Childs put back on his gloves and the 2 men continued to fight. In the 6th, Childs landed a hard shot that sent Butler to the canvas for good, leaving him unconscious for several minutes before being revived, handing Childs the KO victory. Butler would be out of the ring for a year before stepping in with the underrated George Cole on February 6, 1902. Cole is a fighter with a deep resume and shared the ring with the likes of the Boston Bone Crusher Sam Langford, Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, and Chappie Jack Blackburn. Butler would drop a decision against Cole over 6 rounds. 2 fights later, Butler would step in with one of the most polarizing figures in boxing and American history, the Galveston Giant Jack Johnson, boxing's first black world heavyweight champion. The fight went down on May 11, 1903 in Philadelphia, scheduled for 6 rounds. Johnson got into an argument with one of Butler's seconds prior to the fight and seemingly took it out on Butler as he handled him with ease before knocking him out in the 3rd round. With Johnson having let down his guard after victory, Butler's second approached Johnson in the locker room after the match and struck him with a bottle over the head, rendering him unconscious. Johnson was eventually revived and only had a scalp wound to show for the incident. Subsequently, Harry Burt was arrested for the infraction, to which he denied the charge. On June 8th, Butler would find himself standing in front of Edward Blaswick, better known as Brooklyn's own Kid Carter, a fighter who once fought for the world middleweight title in a losing effort against Tommy Ryan. For this contest, after some back and forth that saw both men get rocked in the early portion of round 1, Carter feinted with a left and landed a right to the jaw of Butler to send him down and out as he sank to the canvas before the end of round 1. Joe Butler would fight twice in 1904 against 2 top-tier challengers, the first being April 7th against the hard-hitting Baltimore Demon, young Peter Jackson, born Sam Tompkins. Young Peter Jackson is the best of numerous fighters named after colored world heavyweight champion, the great Peter Jackson. Young Peter Jackson would stop Butler in the 5th of 6 rounds. The next fight wouldn't get any easier, as on September 29th, Butler would face the former world light heavyweight champion, Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, in a 6-rounder in Philly. It would only go 1 round, as O'Brien sent Butler down with a hard shot as he was counted out 1 minute and 54 seconds into the contest. It would then be 6'4", 200-plus pound heavyweight contender Jim Moose Jeffords on tap to face Butler next on January 6, 1905. Jeffords fought and mostly lost to a number of the top heavyweights during his era. Jeffords would knock out Butler in the second round, though one article suggested it was the first. On April 27th, Butler would rematch the Irish giant Peter Marr. Butler floored Marr in the beginning of the fight, to which Marr rose and took it to Butler, landing a right to Butler's jaw, which sent him down and out for the count halfway through the first round of a scheduled 6. After 1905, Butler would largely be out of the ring, save for a return in 1909 and 1911, the latter being a 10-round newspaper decision loss at the hands of Irish middleweight contender Mike Donovan. Despite facing numerous challenges and setbacks, Butler's perseverance and resilience helped him secure several notable victories, earning him respect and admiration in the boxing community. When it was all said and done, Butler would finish his career with a record of 38 victories, 24 losses, and 3 draws. 32 of those victories came via knockout. He also had 7 no decisions and 13 no contests in a career that spanned from 1883 to 1911. Joe Butler's contributions to the sport of boxing extend beyond his achievements in the ring. As a pioneer, he helped pave the way for the future generations of boxers, breaking down barriers and challenging the status quo. His story is a testament to the power of perseverance and the enduring spirit of the sport. It was once reported that Joe Butler had more friends in Philadelphia than any other local boxer, which is a feat in itself given the rich history of fighting in Philadelphia. Joe Butler may not be a household name, but his legacy in the world of boxing is undeniable. By revisiting his story, we honor the courage and determination of a true pioneer. Thank you for joining us on this journey through boxing history, and stay tuned for more episodes as we continue to explore the lives and careers of the sport's greatest fighters. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to 86 Boxing for more content. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Let us know in the comments who you'd like to see featured next. And as always, keep punching and stay inspired.